handle defeat in general? This is a very interesting question. And I think that the best way to do it is something that is called remodeling your world. Now, the way that you remodel your world is, say that you got rejected from something. The thing that keeps popping into my head now, even though she's doing extremely well, is my girlfriend is, and I've become Ben Shapiro, isn't it? My girlfriend's an actor. But anyway, my girlfriend's an actor. And as a result of that, she is obviously constantly getting rejections. Nowhere near as much as rejections as other people. She's actually landed a bunch of ads, and I think that that is real testament to the fact that acting is not what everybody says of, oh, you could get lucky. Maybe you can get lucky to get to Nicole Kidman levels, but you can make a living out of acting if you just get on your grind. So, what does she do? What does she do when she's rejected? The thing that she always does, first off, which I think is just genius of her, but she's too robotic for my standards. I don't know if I'm dating a girl or a Mac. So she is just got this kind of mind of just going like, as long as I'm doing something, I don't feel sad about being rejected by something else, because she's always got something lined up in the pipeworks. Obviously, that's what you should be doing naturally. If you are not constantly moving towards something, you start to stagnate, you start feeling depressed, and then it becomes this spiral where you go down going, everybody hates me and is against me and is trying to make me fail, when the truth of the reality is, no one gives a shit about you. Sorry, especially me. Like the video. I care. No, I care a lot. I care about you more than your mum. It's actually somewhere in the middle, alright? I care about you a little bit less than your mum, and what I'm saying right now is definitely not a lie. But, what happens in those situations is that, first of all, like when you get into that little spiral, like a lot of it is just you're making because you haven't been doing enough to be moving towards something else. So you sit there and start dwelling on how much of a piece of shit you are. And let's be honest, there's a lot of confirmation bias there. You are a piece of shit. If you're not moving towards something, you are basically a drain. Harsh realities. So, the way that you counteract that is to be constantly moving towards something. That's the first thing that you should be doing to handle defeat, is you shouldn't even be noticing defeat, because defeat is an arbitrary measure. A lot of other people are always talking about how they just completely reframe it. So, for instance, Thomas Edison, classic example, everyone always uses it, but when people say, how does it feel, some reporter asked him, how does it feel to come up with 999 failures of the light bulb? And then he just said, I didn't come up with 999 failures for the light bulb, good sir. I came up with 999 ways not to invent the light bulb. Some of them ended up being, now I'm just coming on to an addendum, it's not actually a quote, I'm just kind of meshing what I read in a biography of his year 4, I think, in still his voice. But some of them came up to be very important inventions, which all of them escape me at the moment. Anyway, moving on. This isn't a quiz about my knowledge of Edison, alright? All I know is pretty much that quote. Feels good off my chest to be honest for once. Now, there's also the reframing of it. I found that specifically helpful, especially on my path. Because if you're doing anything that's creative, you're going to endure a lot of resistance. In fact, you will endure a lot of resistance if you try and break the mold in any way. If you don't try and break the mold, this is what happens to you. It's just like, oh, the company went out, you're fine. That's what happens now, right? But when you're creating, this is what happens to you. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. But when you're trying to do something different, you will get a lot of resistance. Now, you can interpret that as defeat. But the thing is, what happens when you interpret something as defeat is, you give up. You basically said that I was playing a soccer game, the clock ran out, we were defeated. But life isn't like that. Life is what they call an infinite game, despite the fact that it's extremely finite and you could die tomorrow. But, good night. But, what you need to think about is the fact that, as much as a human being can have, you are an infinite game. It just keeps going. You say when the clock finishes, if the clock finishes at all. For instance, if my videos, say that I became Onision, and let's face it, I pretty much, Onison or whatever the fuck his name is. Look, I pretty much am the Australian one of that anyway, but say that that happened to be with my views on my YouTube channel, and then it just completely tanked, and I was just getting, on my main channel, no views, like 2,000 views an upload or something like that. If that happened, people could go like, he's irrelevant, he's done. Maybe, but I'll just try another hustle, yo. Because that's just the way that life works. It's just like, you don't expect things to just constantly be rosy for you or constantly be picking up. That is not an intelligent way to face life. It is basically, how do you interpret the setbacks? And the best way to interpret the setbacks, one that I always found, every time I was rejected about something, every time I was rejected, I got excited. So most people, when they get rejected, they just get down on themselves and they go, I need a drink, and then they're out of action for the next 2 days. When I was rejected about something, I started walking around like I'd succeeded. And the reason I did that is because I was rewarding myself for taking this step to get rejected in the first place. You don't want to be wincing when you go into auditions or whatever the fuck you're trying to do and just being like, don't hurt my feelings, please. I can't handle any more hurt. I'm a fragile flower. No, you don't need to be doing that. What you need to be doing after that is when they're just like, you're shit, just be like, oh, you're probably right, anyway, and then just keep moving on, because it is an infinite game, and you did something that could have increased your chances of getting to where you wanted to go. You should be rewarding yourself for that. The only thing you should ever be not rewarding yourself for is feeling sorry for yourself. That is it. That is the only time you should ever be hard on yourself. The only time you should ever be hard on yourself is ironically when you're being hard on yourself. Do you see how that works? Because if you don't do that, what happens is that that feeling starts perpetuating and it just becomes a natural state that you retreat to. That should be the enemy. The enemy of your life should be feeling sorry for yourself and stagnating. If you have learned something today, if you have moved towards your goal in any way at all, today has been a bonus. Today has been a move in the right direction. That's cool. You should reward yourself for that. Don't get into that spiral of just going that, oh no, I'm not exactly where I want to be, which usually these things of where I want to be is what most people, realistically, when they think about it, they could be there if they were in there for 10 years, but it's not today. So what? So what? This is the other secret about life. A lot of art is always telling you that there's all these failures in life for random chances. I don't think that's true. I think that if you are truly committed to a goal, you will find a way. It's just that most people aren't fully committed to a goal, are they? Most people are lazy pieces of shit that just take their little 60 grand a year or whatever the little carrot in front of them in their little hamster wheel is, and they settle for that. And then they come home and then they just go, oh, well, you know, that was a tough day. I'll just try and get by the next day. Instead of sculpting a life that they could make for themselves. And I was discussing in the previous video, you can do that. You can do that. Even if you can devote 20 minutes to it to this day, it will start snowballing. The more time you commit to your goals, the more time you will have to commit to your goals. Everything in life just avalanches. Even stagnation. Stagnation just avalanches into more stagnation. So, if you are feeling down on yourself, what you should be doing is reframing it. I don't know what you're feeling down for. Frankly though, I think you're a loser. But so good how this is like, it really is just an extension of my personality. It's just constant just like huge lavish praise or just extremely insulting, kicking while down, just pushing on, dancing on someone's grave. But what you need to get into your mind is that you are the only person that gets to define what defeat is for yourself. And the way that I defined defeat for myself was that I wasn't doing anything that day. That was a defeat. And that should be your defeat as well. That's when you actually lose. And in the reality of the situation, if you actually look at it, that is the only way you can lose. If you did anything towards your goals today, today was a win. Even if it was a setback. Because even if it was a setback, you know that you shouldn't be doing that in the future. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't do that. That's a win. It's like the Thomas Edison thing, you know a way of how not to build the light bulb. That's how you should be looking at life. That is how you handle defeat. That is how you don't, the only way to handle defeat correctly is to define defeat correctly. And the way that you define defeat correctly is stagnation. Stagnation is the enemy. Growth is your friend. Now, I'll see you next week. You give me some more questions. Press the like button. I'm out.